Ms. Jorde. Okay, Ms. Jorde.
Yes, thank you. Can you please state your name?
Theresa Thoms.
And Ms. Thoms, you, along with your family, own land that is currently targeted by Summit for their hazardous pipeline, correct?
That's correct.
And what county is that in?
Pardon?
And ma'am, you caused previously to be filed what's known as pre-filed written testimony. Do you recall that?
Yes.
And rather than going through all of that with you again today, if I were to ask you those questions, would the answers you and your family gave there be substantially similar today as they were in your written testimony?
I believe so. Yes.
And do you have any corrections that you believe are necessary to make to that testimony?
Well, I did look them over, and as best as I can recall, this all started so many years ago, and it is hard to remember everything exactly right, but I believe it is the best I can recall.
All right. And also, you've caused to be filed, have you not, a hearing exhibit that I believe was uploaded today, which is a exemplar picture of a valve, a shutoff or safety valve. Is that correct?
Yes.
And that's because you're also being targeted not just for the permanent right-of-way, but also for a permanent valve easement.
That's correct.
Okay. So with that, Your Honor, I'd offer Exhibit Landowner LO 234 and 611.
Are there any objections?
Not to 611. I'm just pulling 234 right now, Your Honor. It's 234, just the pre-filed testimony.
Yes, with attachments.
Thank you. No objection.
All right. The board will admit the testimony and give it the way it due.
Okay. With that, ma'am, I'll tender you for cross-examination.
Mr. Taylor.
Ma'am, when did you first become aware the Summit wanted an easement across your property?
They had a meeting there in close to, I live in the country there by Steamboat Rock, and they had a big meeting at this new venue place we have, and I went to the meeting, and my son went with me, and that was the first that we had ever heard about it, and that, I don't know how, a year and a half, 2 years ago, it's been a while.
And as I understand it, your land has been handed down through several generations.
Yes, it was my husband's parents had bought that land, and then when they passed away, we moved out there, and then Highway 20 wanted to go through our property. Now, had Highway 20 been built straight, like was one of the options, it would not have cut our farm in half, but there were people that wanted it closer to Eldora, so if you ever look at 20, it dips down like this and went right through and cut our farm in half. We also had 90 acres on the other side of the river, and of course it went through that, and even though we refer to that as the 90, it is now a 60, and it is cut in two pieces with a one small little 4-acre field, which is very close to the ethanol plant. At first, some of they kind of, at least the first thing we got from them, they showed a pumping station on that 4-acre ground. But then that seemed to go away, but they still, I think, are going through that little 4-acre field, which, well, we'll get into compensation later, but I mean, there wouldn't be much left there to farm.
How many parcels do you have that are impacted by this project?
I think it's 4, but 3 or 4. I don't know.
Is it
It's a
possible?
home farm, my home farm, and then that little 4-acre piece.
It's a home farm of how many acres?
We have over 300 acres altogether. We farm about 200. We have pasture. You'll see my house. We had an old farmhouse with our original farm. Well, when 20 went through, my husband didn't want to look out his front door and look at 20. So we built a house on the other side of 20 back in the timber. We decided as long as we were going to build, we would find a beautiful view, which I do have. And now they want to put a pipeline and a valve, which I'm very concerned about the safety.
What do you understand that valve entails and how that would impact your property?
Well, they didn't spring that on to me until it was February of this year. We had gotten some offers from them originally, and my son and I talked about it. And so I called them on a Friday. I called this Mitch Baum. I had met him at our first meeting, and he was honestly the only person that I felt like I could halfway believe. And so I called him, and so he came with 2 other men, so there were 3 of them there on a Sunday afternoon, and that was the first that we ever learned about a valve. And he informed me that it was a 50-foot by 50-foot valve with a fence around it and a driveway, and that they wanted to put it right up there by my driveway.
Okay, can we pull up the KMZ? Would that be okay? Does that look like your property?
Yes, and so you can see where 20, on the other side, on the north side of 20, yeah, somebody else doing that?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
But they can read your mind.
Yeah, I hope so. On the north side of 20 is the original farmstead, right there, yes.
Okay.
And so see, it was all one farmstead until 20 just cut us in half, yes.
Okay.
We did get an overpass. And as you can see, there's the pipeline, it straight across. And I'm not very good at this, guys, but it's going to cut through like 3 or 4 of my terraces. Our ground is timber soil, is what I was always told. Rocky, it does wash. It's a lot of clay. Anyway, so we have several terraces there, and so it cuts right through, straight through those terraces, and then it goes up into a little horse pasture up there, and there's a little stream in there, and our tile just dump into that stream, which right now is dry, of course, but we do keep our horses up there that we use we have a cow-calf operation, and we have a lot of timber and stuff, and we run the cows. But can I do this? The valve.
You have to hold it up kind of high, I think.
Where's that guy out here?
Chuck?
Chuck, where you at, Chuck?
There you are.
I'm not sure. No, I'm trying. Where's it at? Oh, there it is. Now it's gone. Oh, okay. Okay. Right? I don't know. Right in here somewhere. Right here. In here.
So the valve would be where the pipeline crosses horizontally
I guess, yeah.
going from your property to the property to the west.
And I own that property too,
Oh, okay.
okay? Because what happened is when 20 went through, of course, they give you money, but if you don't reinvest it, you'll pay taxes. So we bought 45 acres, someplace not too far away. Then this land next to us came up for sale, and so we swapped the guy, and so we have that land. And my daughter lives right, that house right down the road, gosh, right there. That's my daughter,
Okay.
right there.
And how far is her house from the pipeline road?
I don't know.
I think we're gonna find out.
Good.
$976.93.
And there's people across the road. There's people back behind there too. I don't know how far it is from my house either.
Did Summit do a survey on your property?
Well, they came out a couple times. I never, ever gave them permission. And I told them, basically I never would. But they came out a couple times, and then one time there were two guys, and I'm a widow. My husband passed away. So here comes these two pickups from Louisiana, and men around, and so I asked them what they were doing, and they said, we're surveying the county boundaries. Well, I'm not close to a county boundary, but I called our county engineer and asked him. He said, no, we don't have anybody out there. So I called the sheriff, and he came with the deputy and talked to him, and here it was them. But like I said, I had left them a couple times before. I never said anything, and at the time I said something to the sheriff, and he said, well, Governor Reynolds said they could. Those were his words. And so they left, and it wasn't long after that I got letters saying that they would do an injunction, which I'm no lawyer, but I thought if they bring the paperwork, sheriff comes, I guess I got to let them. They never did show up, and pretty soon I got paperwork saying they were going to sue me.
And did they actually bring the suit in court?
Well, I got paperwork, but we never went to court.
Okay.
I think they decided it wasn't worth it. I don't know. But no, I never went to court.
Okay.
But they were going to, yes.
In your written testimony, you seem to indicate that you didn't really know what the final route was or what Summit was actually proposing. Can you explain that?
I found it. Even my son, and I asked him, their maps and stuff, we have a lot of trouble understanding just exactly, and like I said, they changed things. At one time, at the very first, my daughter, who just lived down the road, she got paperwork. So why she did, I don't know, because they don't get it yet. So, but she got paperwork, and then later on, another issue was kind of the last go around when I got paperwork. A guy that used to farm our ground, we just farmed it out. 20 years ago, he got the paperwork. It's like, really? That was 20 years ago. He isn't farming it anymore. So some of it's kind of confusing, and just never really, and like I said, first there was a pumping station, then there wasn't, and now we have the valve, and just very confusing. When those